Hi guys, welcome to Stoops Loops. I'm Stoops and today is our second episode of learning to crochet. So over the last episode, we learned kind of the basics of yarn and hooks and how to do the chain stitch. So today we're just going to go a little bit more in depth on, let me kick you there, of some of the basic stitches. So today we're going to learn single crochets, double crochets, the slip stitch, and how to turn your work. So we're going to get started same as last time. We're going to make a slip, I don't know what to call that, but just to start our work, get the loop on the hook. We're going to hold our yarn and our crochet hook the way we learned last time, and we're going to do a chain of 11. I'm just doing a quick swatch, so we're going to be working in groups of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the reason that I said we're going to make 11 is when we're working into our chain stitch, we're going to skip the first one closest to the hook. And since I want 10 stitches across, I'm going to add one more that we're going to skip when we start working into it. When we go to do our single crochet, we're going to be working into our chain stitches. There's quite a few ways to do it, and you can kind of play around with it as you get more comfortable to see what kind of look you like for your finished project. Some people will work into the back humps on the back side of our chain to get the braided edge on the bottom. I think for the purposes of this video and learning, we're going to be working into our top 2 stitches of the braid. So if you look, I'm just going to pull this out. Our chain stitches kind of come in a braid. So there's 1, 2, 3 for each. When we're holding it this way, this one is going to be our bottom, and we're going to be working right above that across the 2. Those are going to be on top. So to kind of show you what that looks like, let me get my hook back in here. We're going to skip this first one closest to our hook and go into this second loop. We're going to go and take these 2 stitches, leaving the bottom stitch. So we're going in between. We're going to loop and pull through. And for our single crochet, we're going to pull through the 2 left on our hook, and that creates a single crochet. Now going into our next one, 2 on top, yarn over, pull through, and pull ooh, it's hard to kind of do on camera, pull through 2. So as you go, it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of see what I'm talking about. So here's our bottom stitch, and these 2 are our top, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So working into your chain stitch is going to be the hardest part, honestly, of any project, trying to hold everything in your hands. And if you notice, in my last video, I said if your tension was too thick, you're going to be holding it with this finger. The chain stitch is the only time I do this, just because it's so hard to hold on to all our pieces of work at the same time, and that way it's just a little bit more steady. And I'm holding on to this, but I'm letting the hook move through my finger. I don't know if that's making it a little bit too complicated, so you don't have to worry about that at the moment. But when I pull through, it should be easy enough to hold back here. Like I said, it might be a little bit tricky working into your chain. That's normal, and that's not gonna really go away. It's always gonna take you the longest to work into your chain stitches. So here's our last stitch. We're gonna go through, it's a little hard to hold. And I got my nails done because they look so janky on camera. I got them done from last time, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. But when we get to the end, so here's your single crochets. Looking at it head on, there's little V's, and then looking at it from the top, we still have our braids. At the bottom, because we didn't work into that last loop, there's just a line across. So when we go to do our next row, we're going to turn our work. So turn that, ooh, like that. So now we're looking at the back side. And there's a couple different ways to start a new row. So a lot of people, when doing single crochets, they will chain one and then do a single crochet into the first stitch. So if you notice, there's the braids on top. You can see your 2 loops. So this is our first one here. We're going to go through our first one. You see the braid, both of those loops are on top. Pull through and pull through 2. And then our next one here, so it's a little bit easier to see when you're looking this way. There's a kind of a large bump and those 2 are at the top. So we're going to go into that. So we'll have our 2 loops on top. Ooh, yarn over, pull through, and pull through 2. So another way to start, if you're doing single crochets, and that's kind of my preferred way, so you can see where our chain 1 loop is right here, how that can look a little bit messy, especially as you're going on. It kind of gives you bumps on the edge of your work. What I like to do is go immediately in, go through our 2, pull through, and pull through 2. That just makes it a little bit cleaner on the edge. You could do it either way if you're having trouble finding that first one. Then same thing across, go into our stitch, pull through 2 for our single crochet. Again, if you're having trouble, when you look at it from the sides, so the side you're working on, you'll see that, especially if you're using bigger yarn where the loops are more obviously. And if you're having trouble, just look at the top. You should have your braid and you should be going through those 2 loops. So one more single crochet, we're going to pull through and pull through 2. So our last stitch might be a little bit trickier to see because you have this bump from where we skipped our first chain. So if you look at the top, that's kind of always going to be your check, is if you can see the little braid. You're going to be wanting to work into that. So that would put us into this spot. And it's a little bit tricky for the last one. But we have our 2 loops on our hook. That's what we want. Pull through 2. Then we have 2 rows done of single crochets. So the next row, I'm going to be doing double crochet. So I'm going to turn my work. And a lot of people, there's quite a few ways to start a new row of double crochet. A lot of people will chain 2. Some count that as their double crochet and they'll work into the next stitch. Some don't count this as a double crochet and will double crochet straight into this stitch. What I like to do for my double crochets, and I'm just going to show you this, it is a little bit more advanced, so if you're not quite getting it, that's totally fine. But what I like to do starting a new row of double crochet is I'll do a single crochet straight into that first one, and then I will go into that first front loop of our single crochet that we just did, go into that, pull through, and then pull through 2. So that gives us kind of the same look as a single crochet before we move on. If you're just starting out, I would just do the chain 2. So if we're brand new for these purposes, starting a row of double crochet, I'm going to chain 2 and then double crochet into that same stitch. So the difference for a double crochet as opposed to a single crochet is you have more loops. So we're going to start by putting some yarn on our hook, wrapping around. We're going to keep that on our hook, go into that first stitch, pull through. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to pull through 2 and pull through 2. So again, we're going to loop, go into our stitch, pull through 2, and pull through 2. I think this is probably the most common stitch you're gonna see in crochet. Sometimes when I'm going, especially at the beginning here where there's not a lot to hold on to, I like to have my finger here more so to like drive my hook than to hold onto the yarn at all, but kind of, especially when I'll crochet without looking, it helps me feel where I'm at. So we're going to go in, pull through 2, yarn over, go into our stitch, pull through, pull through 2, pull through 2. So we're going to do that all the way across just to get to the other end. So we can see we had 2 rows of single crochet, and this is our row of double crochet. Next stitch I want to show you is a treble. And these can kind of go on and on and on. These are your basic stitches, but I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. So the difference between a double and a treble is how many times you yarn over. So this time you're going to yarn over twice, go into our stitch, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. So that's again taller than the double crochet. I would mainly practice these two. You're going to see those most in your stitches. As you can see, we're keeping it straight on the edges even though we're doing different stitches. You just want to count and make sure that your stitch count is on. So you still have, we started with 10, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the other stitch I wanted to show you is going to be a half double crochet. So for that one, I'm going to chain 2. A half double is what it sounds, or actually I'm just going to chain 1 since it's not that tall. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's half double crochet. So for a double, you're going to yarn over and go into your stitch. So we're going to do the same. We're going to pull through, and then we're going to pull through all 3 on our hook at once for a half double. So you're going to yarn over, go into your stitch, pull through, and pull through all 3. So just to kind of do everything one more time, we have our single crochet. So we go into our stitch, we should have our 2 on top, pull through 2. So for single, we're not yarning over. Half double, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through all 3. Double, we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Treble, we're going to yarn over twice, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. A slip stitch is usually used to close something. There's a lot of reasons you would do it, especially if you're working into a circle. All that is going into your stitch and then pulling through both stitches. One other way to start a project besides doing the chains is if you're going to be working in a circle a lot of the time, or if you're making a granny square, you're going to use a magic ring. So the easiest way that I find to start a magic ring is going to be holding our tail in our fingers, wrapping around in an X, and then I'm just going to hold that with my pinky. But we have an X on this side, and then we have 2 loops on top. So with our hook, we're going to go under this and pull across. Ooh. And then take this to pull up our loop. Then when you pull your fingers out, we have our little loopy. A lot of the time you're going to, say if we're doing a granny square, chain 2, work our double crochets. I'm mainly doing this to show you the slip stitch, so I'm just going to work a couple of stitches. Our magic loop allows us to pull on this and pull it closed. And then if we're working in a circle, you go back to the initial start, top of the start chain, and then a slip stitch as you go into your stitch and pull through both. I know this doesn't look like a lot, it's just for demonstration purposes, but I'm going to do the magic circle one more time. So make an X with our fingers, flip it over, pull this through, and then use this to chain up one. And then you can work from here. You have your magic loop that you can pull to close. Those are kind of the basics. I'll go a little bit more in detail when we go into our beginner projects on how to do some of these things. I believe our next video will be how to make a granny square, very basic granny square. But if you have any questions on what we went over today, definitely let me know in the comments if you need any clarification. And I hope that this was educational enough for you guys to kind of get started there. For now, I would recommend just making swatches, doing little squares of each. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.